Okay, good morning, afternoon, kind of, day, whatever. So I'm not much of a DIY kind of person, but since we're in a pandemic and, now's a good time to do any DIY stuff around the house, I looked, so basically, we have a blank white wall going up and down our stairs. So this is the one that goes, as you can see, up the stairs. It's quite tall, all the way up there. And there's one going down to the basement. So here, this is the wall that goes down to the basement. I just found it a bit too blank, and I wanted to do something to, I don't know, make a feature wall or something, and I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to do any wainscoting because I feel like it's a little too fancy, and our place is not like the decor and the vibe is not a fancy traditional vibe. I mean, there are some traditional aspects of our place because it is an older place, like 12 years or so, but I just didn't want to have some random wainscoting. I thought about some, I don't remember the name of it, like I'll link some pictures, but those seemed like way harder for me to do as a DIY, as my first DIY project. And then I came across this wood slat wall feature that I've seen on Pinterest that I've pinned as an idea, and I really like it. It has sort of like a modern vibe to it, and it seemed easy enough that I think I can do it. So I calculated the general space. I'm going to start with the one that goes down to the basement because that's much shorter. Like, it's only about 8 feet ish in height, whereas the one that goes up the stairs goes up to 16 feet, and I'm just not ready for that kind of commitment yet. So we're gonna start with the one going down to the basement. It seems easy enough. I already researched, I did my research online, and basically a cost-effective type of wood is plywood, which is perfect because this is a budget-friendly DIY, and plywood is easy enough because I want to paint it white, so it doesn't need to be fancy or any nice type of wood, because I'll be sanding it down and painting it white anyways. And the reason why I'm painting it white is because I can't commit to a color that I like, that I don't mind seeing every day. And even though the wall is white and the wood is white, I feel like it will still add some texture to the wall instead of just blank white wall. I don't know, I wasn't really sure of committing to a color yet, because I feel like I don't want to paint the wall. I want to keep it as white, and if I paint the slats a different color, it'll look a little weird, unless I leave it the same color, which is, I'll show a picture of, I'll show what the plywood looks like. It's kind of a very light, it's like a birch plywood. I've debated that too, just keeping it as is. I don't know. There's a lot of things. I'm just kind of making decisions along the way. We'll see how it looks. But I think I do like the idea of white, just because our house, the floors are all wood, and I don't want too many juxtaposing wood colors, but that's my preference. Anyways, So plywood, most cost effective. I searched for a lumber yard near my place and was able to find one like 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes away. And so I got 2 sheets of 4x8 birch plywood. The not width, but the depth of the plywood is 1/2 inch. I debated the 1/4 inch, but my husband said that like it doesn't seem sturdy enough because we do need to nail it to the wall as well. So we ended up with a 1/2 inch, and I think that's fine. That gives plenty of depth for the walls. And the cost for that came up to be about $200, which was my budget for plywood. So that makes me feel like the walls going up the stairs will probably cost double, if not triple that, because the height is 16 feet. But we'll worry about that project after. So found the plywood, got it, and I feel like this project's gonna take a few days or a few weekends, and we're gonna see. Gonna go slowly. So our first step is to mark off all the lines of you know, where to cut. So in 1 inch wood planks. So we're gonna do that today. I'm just marking off. My father-in-law, Sam's dad, has a miter saw, so we're gonna borrow that. Maybe we'll do that next weekend to saw off everything. And then the steps in my mind is, after sawing it, sanding it down, and then we're going to measure against the wall because it is on a slant. We just have to make sure that it fits correctly, and then painting it white. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna paint it white. I don't think I'll leave it as that birch color because I don't know, it just doesn't pop. I don't really like it. So we're gonna paint it white, and then nail glue, which I've bought already, and also nail into the walls. So the steps are in my mind. I've done a lot of research, so we're gonna see how this pans out. Yeah. So I'll show you the plywood that we have. Okay, we're in our garage, and I'll show you the plywood that we got. So I don't know if you can tell. Excuse all the other mess, because this is just where we put all our shit. So this is the plywood that we got. It's originally 4x8, but I asked the people at the lumber yard to cut it in half for me. That way I was able to transport it home a lot easier. So I got 2 of them. So there are how many pieces are there? Yeah, 4 pieces in total, because I got 2 4x8s and they cut it in half. So this is a half. Can you see? This is a 1/2 inch. So we're going to measure out 1 inch, and I'm going to draw a line, and yeah, we're gonna do that today.
Wanna be there in the morning, wanna be the one you're holding. Deep inside I wanna feel you, but all I need from you is tell me that you love me, tell me that
actually don't know how that long that took, but it felt like forever. Anyways, so I only did one board. So you can see they're kind of faint. I use a pencil, but they're 1 inch width apart. I did one board so that when we start cutting it, I can use this one to measure for the other 3, which will be a lot easier and less time consuming. So that's what we're going to do. Alright guys, we rented a table saw from Home Depot for about 4 hours, although now we have only about 3 hours to use to cut the boards. I'm hoping it doesn't take the full 3 hours. Now technically 2.5 hours because we had to have that time to like drive it back to Home Depot. It was about like $30 to rent for 4 hours, so yeah. Hoping it should be okay. We shall see.
Wanna be there in the morning. Wanna be the one you're holding. Deep inside, I wanna feel you.
We got these masks to help us so we don't get anything in our eyes, and masks to cover our mouths. Safety first, children.
Tell me that you want me and that you wanna hold me. If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say it. I wanna hear you say it. If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say it. I wanna hear you say it. I wanna warm your lonely night.
Okay. Alright. So we finished cutting all the individual wall slats, and I've already learned a lesson, which is if you're going to do this yourself, don't make the wall slats too thin because cutting it is going to be a bitch. So I recommend originally I had 1 inch width because I liked the look of the thin wood slats, but as we started cutting it, and my husband Sam had already said like we should do it thicker, but I didn't listen to him. And yeah, so we did the thin ones for a bit, and then realized that it was harder to cut because on a table saw there is a measurement like thing that helps you guide the wood or whatever that needs to be cut, and the 1 inch was too thin for it to hit against that measurement guard thing, and so there was always a gap, and it was hard to cut it straight without it being pushed up against you know, a guard. So after a little bit I decided that okay, forget it, let's just cut 2 inches for the width so that it hits the guard and it's easier to just glide it through without, you know, like space between the wood and the guard. So we ended up doing that, and it was a lot easier, and it went so quick after that because, you know, it was a lot easier, and we were able to cut like those the 3 planks of woods in like 30 minutes, maybe even less, to be honest. So I recommend going 2 inches in the width if you're going to DIY this. Otherwise, you know, if you're hiring someone to do it, a professional, they can probably do it better. So, I mean, maybe in hindsight we could have like put a block of wood in between the guard and the wood, but in the moment we were just like, what are we gonna do? So yeah, so that's the lesson I learned today. So instead of all being uniform, I'm going to do thin ones that gradually go to the thicker length, so it looks like I did it on purpose instead of not on purpose. So that's my plan for the basement, at least the basement stairs, and then for the upstairs we'll stick with the 2 inches, and that will look a bit more uniform. I mean, the basement that was a trial run anyways, because not all people go down to the basement. It's really just my husband and I that go down because our office is down there, so not everyone will be seeing that. So that's fine. It's fine. But you know, learn from my mistake. I like the look of the thin wood slats, but if you're gonna DIY it, either make it 2 inches or find a block that can go into the space between the guard and your wood, so that when you glide the wood to the cutting board, it will glide better. So that's what I learned today. So we finished cutting everything, and we have dinner with Sam's family, or my in-laws, in a bit, so probably not gonna do anything else today. But tomorrow we are going to, my plan is to measure out the height exactly that we need, and we have a regular like handsaw that my father-in-law has, so we borrowed it, and it's easier to cut little things with that. So we're going to cut and sand, and if I have time, I want to paint it. So that's my goal, so then I can paint everything and have it dry overnight, and then tomorrow, and then the day after, which is Sunday, we can glue and drill it into the walls, and then that'll be it. So that's my game plan. I'm hoping that I can follow the schedule so I can finish the basement wall this weekend and finish the upstairs wall next weekend. Yeah. See you guys later. Okay, we are gonna get ready to sand and paint. So I'm gonna lay down actually, I'm gonna count how many wall slats we have.
If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say, tell me that you, let me hear you say, baby, come a little closer, closer, tell me, let me hear you say, baby, wanna hear you need me, wanna hear you want me, hear you say it, wanna hear you say.
Okay, so we have 27 of the 1 inch ones and 43-ish of the 2 inch ones.
Wanna be the one you're holding. Deep inside, I wanna feel you. But all I need from you is, tell me that you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me I'm the only one for you, babe. Tell me that you want
currently, it is Sunday, April 4th. Yesterday was a very tiring day. Sam sanded down all the wood slats and then I painted over them. I feel like one coat is enough as long as you don't like have any markings on them, because some of them have the pencil markings and I had to do another coat over them because you can see through that. But otherwise, if you don't have any markings, then one coat is okay. We bought paint from Canadian Tire. It was on sale for like $40 something. And it's like one of those, it's their like premier brand, and it has a base coat and like all in one kind of in it. So that was fine. And today we're going to use the nail glue and put it on the walls. I think that they're pretty thin and light enough that I could just use nail glue because it's heavy duty nail glue. So we're gonna try that first. So that would eliminate like using nails and then using like putty or whatever it's called to cover it, sand it down, and then touching up the paint. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're using heavier wood than, you know, plywood, if you're using actual like whatever wood. But the plywood is pretty light and the 1 inch is pretty light. It's not heavy at all. The 2-inch width ones could be a little iffy because they are a little heavier, but since it's heavy duty nail glue, I mean, it says like you can even use it on cement and stuff like that, so I feel like it should be okay. We're gonna test it out, see how it holds. Worst comes to worst, you know, we'll nail it to the wall and do that whole process. But since either way we do have to use nail glue, we're gonna see if that will be sufficient enough. So that's our goal today.
Baby, come a little closer, closer, tell me. Let me hear you say it, baby. Wanna hear you need me, wanna hear you want me, hear you say it, hear you say it, wanna hear you say. Tell me.
So basically what's happening, I've measured out the first 2 wood slats because they're pretty even on the wall. And I've like penciled where to cut it. I'm gonna use the depth of the like random cuttings. So each depth is about half. Each depth is about 1/2 inch. So we're gonna do 1 inch between each wood slat. So we're just gonna cut it as our spacers and kind of tape it or glue it together, and then we can use that to space out our wood slats. So that is the plan.
We light up when you're close to me. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me I'm the only one for you, babe. Tell me that you want me and that you wanna hold me. If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say it.
So here's a little update from what has been done so far. As you can see, it's not 100% straight. I guess it's not as obvious on camera as it is in person. And there was supposed to be one here, which is this, but it completely just fell out even with the glue because it's not straight, so it couldn't like stick to the wall as well. So in the end, for things like that, I'll definitely have to nail it. And it's the same case for some of these. As you can see, they're like not sticking to the wall because the wood itself is not straight or the wall is not straight. Whichever is the case, but some of them have been sticking But it's hard. Like, the top part is even, so it's not so bad. But when you get to the bottom here, from eye level, you can see that it's not flush to the wall. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'll probably give a more thorough review when I'm done, but I originally had planned to do this wall and the upstairs wall, but honestly right now I am thinking just this wall because I'm too old for this shit. So yeah, here's an update. I'll show you guys later when we have more. Okay, so this is the update of what I've worked on today. So I was able to get most of the wall done. I did have to end up using nails, so you'll see the black nails on most of them because it just wouldn't stick to the wall, and then I ran out of nail glue, so I ended up just using nails. Later on I'll paint over it as white. I thought about putting the compound over it, but it won't be flush anyways. It'll be like there'll be a bump, so I just figured painting it white would blend in a bit more. Obviously the cutting, as you can see here, is not flush to the bottom there, so I'm going to have to go back and cut some smaller pieces and make it look more flush. Yeah, I had cut all of them at once, so that's why. You know, I measured one and it seemed to fit, and then when I ran along the wall it seemed like it would fit, but clearly I was very wrong. So far not too bad, to be honest. I think once I fix everything it'll look a lot better, but yeah. And then so we're here tomorrow. What am I gonna work on tomorrow? I had originally planned to remove this, but I am getting kind of lazy, so, and then once we remove this we have to fix it because it'll tear off part of the wall, and I just don't know if I am up for that, so I'll probably just cut it to here and call it a day. So tomorrow it's gonna rain, so I don't know if I can actually do anything. So we'll see. Probably not, but we're almost done. So what's left to do would be to finish up the wall and then cut the smaller pieces for the ends, then go over everything with the compound to make sure, you know, everything is flushed and stuff is fixed, because there's some holes that I accidentally did, and then go over with a paint on the nails and things like that. So then that will be that. Yeah.
Wanna be the one you're holding. Deep inside, I wanna feel you. But all I need from you is tell me that you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me I'm the only one for you, babe. Tell me that you want me and that you wanna hold me. If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say it. I wanna hear you say it. If I'm being honest, I wanna hear you say it. I wanna hear you say it.
Okay, so here's a little update on our slat wall. this is what it looks like. We're almost done. It's not perfect. You can kind of see there's some spacing there. No matter how much you measure, it's just like, unless you're a professional, it's just hard. But I've kind of like gotten over it. I feel like because it's white, it'll blend into the wall a little bit more. Maybe it won't be as obvious, but it's, let me turn on the light. It's essentially done. So I attached some ends here to extend it so it looks longer, and I applied like kind of like a compound over it to blend in a little bit better. And the next thing I have to do is really sand it down and paint, which I'm hoping to finish today, so I'll show you the final product after. But yeah, we're almost there. It's been a long journey, and once everything's done, I'll probably sit down and kind of go over the do's and don'ts and my own experience and my thoughts on this whole process. So yeah, we'll see you guys later. Hey guys, so I'm just gonna film a outro to this whole DIY project. I've actually jotted down some lessons I've learned from this project, and here are some clips on, you know, what it looks like. All in all, I really liked the look of it still. I think it's very modern and kind of gives a little like architecture feel to it. In the end, I really like the final project, but there's definitely some lessons that I learned because it was not an easy project. Not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So one thing, measure. So I just kind of like went in kind of blindly like, oh, you know, I'll measure along the way, at least the first half of the wall. And let me just preface this by saying, if you're just doing a straight wall, no weird curves, no weird slants, this project would be like literally 100% easier. But because we're going along the staircase and there's a lot of like angles on the top and at the bottom, it was so complicated. I think if I was a professional, I would know how to measure it, but obviously we're not professionals, and it would have helped to know how to measure the angles. So there was a lot of times where I had to keep going back and forth from the wood cutter, because the saw, because I measure how I could measure, which is just like straight, but then it would just not be correct, and I have to go back and do it. And then at one point I just kind of like, I measured one and I ran it along the wall. I'm like, okay, this kind of fits, and I did like 20 cuts, only to find out that for some reason it just kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So I had to like make up for it at the bottom by cutting extra pieces to make it look longer. And then at the last portion of the wall on the landing, that was a little easier to cut because the bottom was all straight, and so I measured that a bit more meticulously, so it wasn't as bad. But always measure as accurately as you can before you start the project, because it will just save so much time. The second is in the end, I ran out of nail glue like halfway through, and I found that the nail glue didn't really help me that much for the longer pieces, because it just didn't stick to the wall that well, because the wood slats themselves weren't always straight. So it was like maybe curved this way or curved this way, and so it didn't stick to the wall. So in the end, for the rest of the project, I just used nails, just one at the top, one at the bottom, called it a day, and that fit fine. I did get borrowed glue from my father-in-law to do the bottom, like little pieces, because they were little. It was easier to glue. But if I had to do it again, maybe I would have gotten nails that were maybe thinner, and not so obvious, because we only had these black nails, and you know, and they're kind of obvious. They do stick out, and I painted them white, but I mean, you can still tell the outline of it. So if there was a way to have like thinner nails, and maybe like the color of the paint that you're going for, that's probably best and will like blend in more seamlessly. Moving on to like sawing. 100% wear clothes you do not care about. Even better, you know, you can buy those like things like coveralls that like cover your entire body. I saw those at Canadian Tire. I wish we got those before, because there's just sawdust everywhere. We tried to prep by getting like big goggles. We wore masks, but I made the mistake of not tying back my hair, so it's like everywhere in my hair, in the air, on the floor. Yeah, it was just hard. So definitely wear clothes you don't care about, and also if you can get one of those like coveralls, like even the plastic sheet ones, I think that would probably help a lot. And one thing is, I originally had wanted to do 1 inch width along the walls, but the table saw, the guardrail, it can't get that skinny. So there's like, when I did the 1 inch, there was this tiny gap between the wood and the guardrail to hold it in place. So at the beginning, I think like 1/4 or even less of the wood that we cut was like curved in all weird shapes, because we couldn't keep it straight, because it couldn't go against the guardrail. So then after cutting 1 inch for like some of the wood slats, we ended up switching over to 2 inches instead, because that hit the guardrail and was able to keep the wood straight. And even then, you can't help it, there's just some curves, because the wood planks that we got were just so big. So I recommend renting or buying a table saw to do this project, and recommend at least 2 inch width. Anything smaller than that is just hard to cut straight. And it still looks good, you know, the 2 inch, so it's fine. I personally like the skinnier, because it just looks a bit more modern to me, but you know, I'm fine with the outcome. And one thing I wish that I could have my hands on was those laser rulers that you can like laser onto the wall and measure if something's straight or not. I wish I had that, because it's hard to eyeball if something's straight. And even though I tried to use like leftover wood slats to have spacing between it, because the wood was curved, and you know, some of the wood was curved and not everything was straight, it didn't help. Like it didn't work, because it's not straight. So our wall is kind of straight, and then it kind of curves, and then the landing is a bit more straight, but yeah, I wish I had that. That would have made my job a lot easier. So, you know, would I do it again? I would pay more money to have it cut for me. So the lumberyard was, if I wanted to pay another like $100, I could have had them cut it in the specific shape that I wanted it. But you know, there was a 2-week waiting list, and I just didn't want to wait, and I didn't want to pay the $100. So if I did it again, I would do that. I would have them cut it for me, so that they're professionals, so they could cut it straight, and all I really have to do is just paint and like cut the ends, but that's not terrible. So if I had to do that again, pay for someone to cut it and figure out actually how to measure angles. I don't know, maybe you need a protractor or something. I haven't used a protractor since I was high school, which was like over 10 years ago, so yeah. So yeah, if I would do it again based on those circumstances. And so my original goal was to do it for that wall and also do it for the wall upstairs, but I feel like I'm too old for these sorts of DIY projects, so I've decided not to do the one upstairs, and I bought this tapestry. I'm just gonna hang that up there, and just call it a day, because I am too old. I was so exhausted at the end of each day. It took us 3 days-ish, and a little bit like the next few days because I had to work, but it was like all long weekend we did this, and I was exhausted each night. So those are my lessons, and I hope you enjoyed watching my DIY journey. Like I said before at the very beginning, I'm not a DIY person. I'm more of I'll pay extra to get it done for me. So this was definitely a learning experience. So yeah. Anyway, stay tuned. I do have another DIY project coming up, but no wood. Does not require any sanding, any cutting, any wood. So hopefully it'll be a lot easier. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!